Assalamu alaikum and welcome to my first recorded session. We will do in this session Julius Caesar Act 4 Scene 1 and 2. Please follow the given instructions before we begin. Open your book page number 69. You will do Act 4 Scene 1 and 2. Pay attention and make notes, because after this session you will have to do an assignment. Okay, now before you watch our video, let us quickly recall the incidents that happened in Act 3, Scene 2 and 3. You see, after Caesar's murder, you have noticed how Antony's funeral speech had diverted the entire crowd against Brutus and the conspirators, and now there is a chaos, there is anarchy in the state of Rome. The plebeians are turning against Brutus and the conspirators. They want to seek revenge of Caesar's murder, and they, in this fury and irrationality, they murdered an innocent poet, Cinna. Because they are frustrated and there is absence of leader and anarchy is prevailing in the state. Okay. And now in this video we will see the further development of the plot. First of all, you watch this video.
In Act 4, Scene 1 of Julius Caesar, Antony, Octavius, and Lepidus are now the three triumvirs who share power over Rome. They meet at Antony's house in Rome to prick the names of Romans to be executed. Antony sends Lepidus to fetch Caesar's will so they can decide what parts of Caesar's public legacy to cut off and give back to the state. Once Lepidus has left, Antony tells Octavius he's good only for errands, like an ass, unfit for rule. Octavius responds that Lepidus is a tried and valiant soldier, and Antony says, "So is my horse." They move on to discuss their plans to raise forces against Brutus and Cassius. Antony has leveraged his newfound favor into the position of triumvir, joining forces with Octavius, the next in line to succeed Caesar. The audience gets a glimpse of the cold, calculated brutality of their collaboration. They don't think twice about marking a man to die, including Lepidus's brother and Antony's nephew. Note the calculation with which Antony moves to take back the gift of Caesar's will, and the way he seeks to influence Octavius against Lepidus. Note how far he is from his rhetoric of Act 3, Scene 2. Now it's Antony's menacing ambition on stage. This is Rome's new ruling class, ambitious like Caesar, but without Caesar's fervor to please the people.
Okay, so in this scene you will see actually moral decline in Antony's character. You will see the relationship between the triumvirs is under stress. The triumvirs are basically three people who jointly hold an office. In this case, the triumvirs are Antony, Octavius, and Lepidus. They have bonded together in a counter conspiracy to destroy the men who killed Caesar. Now let me read the lines. Your brother too must die. Consent you, Lepidus. I do consent. Prick him down, Antony. Upon condition Publius shall not live. Who is your sister's son, Mark Antony? He shall not live. Look, with a spot I damn him. But Lepidus, go you to Caesar's house, fetch the will hither, and we shall determine how to cut off some charge in legacies. What, shall I find you here, or at the Capitol? Here in these lines, Antony, Octavius, and Lepidus discuss assassinating anyone who may threaten their supremacy now that they jointly run Rome. Lepidus agrees to his brother's execution, and Antony has to agree to the death of Publius, his nephew. Now, in these lines, rather than Caesar's passionate friend, Antony appears as a cold and sly politician, willing to use others as he sees fit. He sends Lepidus off to get Caesar's will, to change some of the provisions according to his need, to raise money for their armies. Now you see, as soon as Lepidus is gone to collect Caesar's will, Antony begins to talk trash about him. This is a slight, unmarriageable man, meet to be sent on errands. Is it fit? The threefold world divided. He should stand one of the three to share it. It's very ironic. You see, he thinks that Lepidus is weak, so it's a shame that he will be sharing power with Antony and Octavius in the triumvirate. And he doesn't want to share their power with the Lepidus. Perhaps he just wants to make the most of Lepidus at the moment and then kicks him away. Very ironic line. Is it fit to the threefold world divided and he should stand one of the three to share it? Here he is underestimating Lepidus. He is actually insulting him, and he makes his intentions clear that he is not going to share power with Lepidus. It will be Antony and Octavius only who will share the power. So you thought him and took his voice who should be pricked to die in our black sentence and prescription. You see, and Octavius actually wants to know the reason. And Antony says that he only took Lepidus' word about who should die because he is more experienced than Octavius. Now look at the lines. Octavius, I have seen more days than you, and though we lay these honors on this man, to ease ourselves of diverse slanderous load, he shall but bear them as the ass bears bold, should groan and sweat under the business, either led or driven, as we point the way. And having brought our treasure where we will, then take we down his load, and turn him off, like to the empty ass, to shake his ears and graze in commons. These are the intentions of Antony about Lepidus. He just wants to make the most of Lepidus. He wants to treat him like an ass. He wants to put the load on Lepidus and utilize him and then sends him away. Okay. But Octavius is different, you see. He sticks up for Lepidus. He says that you may do your will, but he is a tried and valiant soldier. But Antony criticizes, you see, Lepidus. He goes on to say that Lepidus will be useful only to share any blame leveled at them. Now look at the lines. So is my horse Octavius, and for that I do appoint him a store of provender. It's a creature that I teach to fight, to win, to stop, to run directly on, his corporal motion governed by my spirit, and in some taste is Lepidus but so. He must be taught and trained and bid go forth, a barren spirited fellow, one that feeds on objects, arts and imitations, which out of use and staled by other men, begin his fashion. Do not talk of him, but as a property. Very, you see, insulting and humiliating remarks for Lepidus. He just, you see, is underestimating him. He just wants to make the most of him, and he's comparing him with, you see, something very frivolous and trivial, and who even doesn't start his own fashion, who picks up his fashion when the other people leave it for after overusing it, and he believes that Lepidus will be useful only to share any blame leveled at them. Means if anything goes wrong, they make any mistake, there is any error of judgment, any kind of, you see, problem appears. So Lepidus will be there to share the blame leveled at them. That is the purpose to have Lepidus now at the moment. and he compares Lepidus to a horse, meaning that he is a resource to be used rather than takes notice of. And Antony's final damning comment is, do not talk of him but as our property. Okay, and then he doesn't want to talk more about it. Later, they both agree that they must make immediate plans to combat the armies being organized by Brutus and Cassius. Look at the lines. And now, Octavius, listen great things. Brutus and Cassius are living powers. We must straight make head. Therefore, let our alliance be combined, our best friends made, our means stretched, and let us presently go sit in council, how covert matters may be best disclosed, and open perils rest answered. Brutus and Antony shares the news with Octavius that Brutus and Cassius are raising their armies, and they must immediately advance against them. Brutus and Cassius are living powers, means they are raising their armies, and we must straight make head, means we must immediately advance against them. Let our allied troops be united in one army. We should get support from our friends and make the most of our resources. This is what Antony is saying in these lines. He also believes that they should decide in private that how their secret problems can be best uncovered and how they can confront the threats in the safest possible way they are already faced with. Very, you see, sensibly he is addressing all the problems, and all of a sudden you see in the scene Antony emerges as a leader, a very cunning and sly politician, a very you see tactful person who is not ready to leave any loophole in their, you see, in their plans, in their plot. He just doesn't want to be defeated. He just rather he wants to defeat the armies of Cassius and Brutus, and that is why he is planning so, you see, safely and tactfully and very sensibly by trying to use all their possible resources, by making alliances with all their friends. Everything he just wants to do in order to win this upcoming war. And you see in the next lines, Octavius agrees with Antony. Let us do so, for we are at the stake, and weighed about with many enemies, and some that smile have in their hearts, I fear, millions of mischief. Octavius is also acting very sensibly, very maturely, though he is too young, too much young, and you see inexperienced, but he agrees with Antony and says that they are tied to a stake and surrounded by baying hounds like bears in the sport of bear baiting. They cannot even trust with their friends. They cannot even trust their friends blindly because of the dangers happening. He understands that even if the people have smiles on their faces, in their hearts, he fears there is mischief, and he cannot afford to make a mistake here. He cannot, you see, and underestimate or overestimate anybody here, and they three together, they are going to, you see, avenge Caesar's murder. They're going to rule. And in this scene, in these lines, as we see Antony emerging as a kind of a leader who is perhaps trying to, you see, outdo everybody, overcome everybody who is coming across in his way. But Antony at the moment should not forget that he cannot do the same to he cannot do the same to Octavius what he is doing to Lepidus, because Octavius Caesar is not an ordinary person. He is Caesar's nephew. So Caesar's blood runs in his blood. Caesar's blood runs in his body as well. So, and if you know about the history, you must know that it will not be Antony, but it will be Octavius Caesar who will be the next emperor of Rome under the name of Augustus Caesar. Okay. Now we will discuss scene 2, act 4. But before this, you watch this video.
In Act 4, Scene 2 of Julius Caesar, Brutus has fled Rome and set up a military camp near Sardis, where he's amassing an army for battle. He's in his tent, anxiously waiting for Cassius to arrive so they can talk. But Cassius checks in through his servant rather than coming in person. Plus, Brutus's servant reports that in Cassius's tent, he felt none of the usual familiar friendliness. Brutus wonders why his hot friend is cooling. When the two generals meet face to face, Cassius's first words are, "Brutus, you have done me wrong." Brutus clears the tent so they can talk privately. Historical awareness provides dramatic irony here, in that we know more than these two generals about their coming military losses. This makes their tiff in this scene seem like foreshadowing. Note how the cooling between Cassius and Brutus is made physical by their separation. They are in separate tents for more than half of the scene. This makes the distance between the co-conspirators visible on the stage. In the aftermath of Caesar's death, Shakespeare effectively zooms in on the strain in Brutus's and Cassius's friendship. Also noteworthy is the battlefield setting that moves the action outside of Rome, preparing us for the wars to come.
Okay, now after this video, let us discuss what is happening in scene 2. The scene shifts to Sardis, and just as all is not well in Antony's camp, it is the same in Brutus's camp as well. You will see a strained relationship between Cassius and Brutus. There is a disagreement between Brutus and Cassius over some kind of corruption that has been exposed. Cassius has done some corruption which has been exposed, and Brutus is not happy with him. Suspicion is growing between Brutus and Cassius, and whereas in their earlier exchange, Cassius accused Brutus of being aloof and distant, now Brutus suspects Cassius's excessive politeness as a form of his underlying disloyalty. Okay, now let me read these lines. He greets me well, your master Pindarus in his own change or by ill officers, hath given me some worthy cause to wish, things done undone. But if he be at hand, I shall be satisfied. Actually, in these lines, Brutus is greeted by Pindarus with the news that Cassius is on his way. And he confides to Pindarus that he is displeased by something that Cassius or his officers have done, and he awaits an explanation. You see, in these lines, actually, he wants to know whether Cassius has done some corruption or he has been influenced by his officers and he has changed his mind, he has done this corruption. He just wants to know the answer, he just wants an explanation. And a very important line that Brutus has spoken here, things done undone. Perhaps he is regretting, he is feeling sorry for something which he has done. What he has done at the moment, you must remember that he has murdered Caesar in order to, you see, maintain peace and justice in the empire. But if even after Caesar's death there is corruption going on, there is injustice, so he believes that what is the use of murdering Caesar? He is regretting, he wants to undo something which he has done but which is not possible. He is now just regretting and he wants an explanation. Pindarus, I do not doubt, but that my noble master will appear, such as he is, full of regard and honor. Brutus, he is not doubted. O what, Lucilius, how he received you? Let me be resolved. Now Brutus is too worried. He asked his own officer Lucilius how Cassius greeted him. And confirming his suspicions, Brutus is told by Lucilius that Cassius's manner was unusually formal rather than friendly. What he says, with courtesy and with respect enough, but not with such familiar instances nor with such free and friendly conference as he has used of old. And Lucilius here is confiding with Brutus that Cassius was, you see, cold. Though he was courteous and respectful, but he was not the same Cassius which he was used to of. You see, he could not find the same, you see, softness and politeness and the intimacy between them as he was used to of. And Brutus replies that thou hast described a hot friend cooling. Brutus is surprised to see this, you see, the new side of Cassius from a very submissive and humble Cassius who was persuading him to murder Caesar and who was always listening to what Brutus is saying, very obedient and very, you see, down to earth. But now he sees a totally different phase of Cassius who is doing corruption and who is turned cool towards his friend Lucilius. Now he is, you see, apprehensive of what is coming up next, what is going to happen to their relationship. Okay. Now in this scene when Cassius arrives here, he is complaining. We see a complaining attitude of, you see, Cassius. He arrives and accuses Brutus of having done him wrong. Most noble brother, you have done him wrong. He just arrives and in front of everyone comes straight to the point. Most noble brother, you have done me wrong. You see, and Brutus is surprised, so surprised and almost shocked when he says, "Judge me, you gods, wrong I mine enemies, and if not so, how should I wrong a brother?" Brutus is shocked and says that he doesn't even wrong his enemies. And how is this possible that he can wrong a brother? But you see, Cassius seems annoyed by Brutus' outward show of innocence and nobility. He says, "Brutus, the sober form of yours hides wrong." Very harsh remark about Brutus, you see, outward appearance. He says that he believes that this is actually a mask that Brutus wears in order to, you see, hide his true self. Very harsh comment about Brutus from Cassius's side, and you see, and they begin to discuss their differences here. At the moment, you see, he says, Brutus says, "Cassius, be content. Speak your grief softly. I do know you well, before the eyes of both our enemies here, which should perceive nothing but love from us. Let us not wrangle. Bid them move away. Then in my tent, Cassius, enlarge your griefs, and I will give you audience." Brutus is acting very, very sensibly. He tells Cassius to keep his voice down, saying that they must keep their disagreements private from their enemies, who should only see them united. And both men instruct their officers to lead their armies away from Brutus's tent and to let no one near until they have finished talking. And now it's becoming clear that there is a friction going on between Cassius and Brutus, as well as perhaps Cassius must aware of the scenario that Brutus has got to know about his corruption, and he will definitely do something to cover up his, you see, crime, and that is why perhaps he has come complaining towards Brutus in order to hide, in order to protect himself, in order to hide his crime, in order to protect himself. And in these lines, you see, they both are actually acting very tactfully. First, Cassius, who says, "When Varus bid our commanders lead their charges off a little from this ground." And Brutus also says that, "Lucilius, do you the like, and let no man come to our tent till we have done our conference. Lucius and Titanus, guard our door," etc. You see, the scene ends here, and we observe quite a strained relationship between Brutus and Cassius, the way we have observed among the triumvirs, that is Antony, Octavius, and Lepidus. Here also in Brutus and Cassius camp, we see the same, because you see they don't trust anyone any longer, and they are sharing their, you see, they're arguing with each other, they are sharing their concerns with each other, and they don't seem happy with each other. At the moment, perhaps Brutus realizes the severity of the situation. He understands, or he is able to see the true face of Cassius, who is a corrupt person and who is doing to make the most of the current situation, where a leader like you see Caesar has been murdered, and there is no one who could stop Cassius from his dishonesty and his crimes. A heated argument is there waiting, and we can sense that the condition of Romans are deteriorating. They are getting worse day by day, and a war is about to start. Okay. Now there is a question that why do you think it is important for Brutus to unite with Cassius despite Cassius' flawed character? At the moment, you see, Brutus has problems with Cassius, and Cassius also has problems with Brutus. But at the moment, we see Brutus cannot afford to break up with Cassius. The reason is very simple. Brutus has murdered his best friend, and the entire crowd has turned against the conspirators and Brutus, and Antony and Octavius. They are raising their powers against them to wage war and to avenge Caesar's murder. So it will be, you see, quite insensible and stupid to break up with the only one support which has been left for Brutus. So he doesn't have any other option left for him, except to stay united with Cassius. He has a flawed character, he has many problems, but initially at the moment they need to be united. Both of them cannot afford to, you see, enlarge their griefs and extend their arguments and create any problem for themselves and for the state of Rome. Okay, so think about it, jot down your points, write about how Cassius you see behaved in the beginning when he was persuading Brutus to go against Caesar, and right after Caesar's murder, now that his most important and the strongest rival is gone, so he had started to show his true face, he started to do the crimes, the corruption and all that. Okay, so just write down the points. Now there is a short assessment for you. This is from Act 4, Scene 1 and 2. Please stick to these two scenes. Do not write from anywhere else, because I have just seen the previous assignment where you people have written from the other scenes as well, where as you were just supposed to write from Act 3, Scene 2. So please focus on the text and look at the question carefully and then answer it very briefly. Okay, there are 7 questions, but let me just read this out. What is a triumvirate? I have already discussed in my lecture, so you just have to write down a brief sentence, brief definition. Question 2, what plans is the triumvirate making in scene 1? Now you will have to write from scene 1 only, whatever the plan the triumvirate is making. Number 3, who does Lepidus agree to add to the list of people that should be killed? Now you must know, and you have to write about Lepidus only. Okay. What does Antony send Lepidus to fetch? Very common thing, you must know, just write down the word. Number 5, how will Antony make sure that he will not take the blame for unpopular decision? You will have to think about it here, but I have given you the answer. Number 6, true or false? Antony's prediction that Rome would be in turmoil has not come to pass. This is a statement, you have to write whether this is a true statement or false. Means you will either write true or false. Number 7, which character tells Brutus that Cassius seemed cold and distant in Act 4, Scene 2 of Julius Caesar? Please to remember that you will have to write from Act 4 and Scene 2 of Julius Caesar, not anywhere else. That's it. Very brief assignment, and write brief answers. Please do not write in pages and then take a snapshot and upload it. Do this in the given space, okay, and then turn in. Thank you. Thank you for joining me in this session. Allah Hafiz. Take good care of yourself. Okay.